Over to the NFL with a stop in Cleveland, to be specific, where the change is official. The Browns have a new starting quarterback, and his name is Dillon Gabriel. The team announcing that news this morning, that he will get the first start of his career this Sunday against the Vikings in London. He'll, of course, play in place of Joe Flacco, who has struggled with the Browns off to a 1-3 start. And when you talk about Browns QBs making their first start since 1999, good luck, Dillon. 0-16. Not a single win for any QB out there, with 14 TDs compared to 22 interceptions, with a passer rating of 65.9 and barely scoring 2 touchdowns a game. That is where things begin for Dillon Gabriel as his career will start, and we continue that conversation and bring in our lead NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. And JJ, Gabriel will be the first QB to make his start outside of the United States. Why now for Gabriel?
Zach, I'm coming up on my 6-year anniversary at CBS Sports, and I believe this is the 7th time that I've been on here talking about the Browns making a quarterback change with their starting quarterback. It's just something that never ends, and so this is the new one with the Cleveland Browns going with Dillon Gabriel. Why now? Joe Flacco has played like one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. When you look at passer rating, he has the worst passer rating among all qualified passers. 2 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, a boatload of other interceptable balls so far this season, and 1 win to show for it that no one would confuse for a win that was anchored by Joe Flacco. And so they move on to Dillon Gabriel. You spend draft compensation, a 3rd-round pick on a quarterback. You know that Joe Flacco is not the future of this team at his age, and you got to see what you have in the young man. And so that is why they are going now with Dillon Gabriel. They probably wanted Joe Flacco to hang on to it a little bit longer. I don't know many teams that want to give their rookie their first start against a Brian Flores-led defense, but that's going to be Dillon Gabriel's lot in life this upcoming week across the pond against the Vikings. So you ask why, that's why. Shedeur Sanders, I know there's a lot of questions about him. Obviously, the Cleveland Browns do not feel that he is ready to be 1 snap away from playing in an NFL game. That's why he will remain as the emergency 3rd-string quarterback. You will only see him if there are injuries to both Dillon Gabriel and Joe Flacco. So they hope to get a spark from Gabriel. They hope to play him the rest of the season. But, of course, don't at all be surprised if in 5, 7, 9 weeks we're talking about a Browns team that is now starting Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, I think that is a storyline that a lot of people out there are looking forward to maybe hearing that as well. What type of parallels can you make with this situation in Cleveland to the one that we just saw in New York with the Giants and giving the job over to Jackson Dart?
Well, obviously, that's a team in the Giants who have a lot more confidence in their quarterback, right? I mean, they spent a 1st-round pick on him, traded up to get him. Brian Daboll spent so much time working on figuring out who their next quarterback was going to be, obviously in consultation with Joe Schoen, because this is really their last shot at it, right? A lot of people have said that the Giants and Daboll has played his last card. We know that his seat is hot, and he's going to go out his way if he ultimately is going out. So that's the difference. Obviously, a better quarterback prospect. Other teams would have jumped at getting Dillon Gabriel in the 2nd round if they could. The Browns taking him there in the 3rd in large part because the value was there, because he was available. So, 2 different players. You can't draw any parallels to their play, but obviously the Browns making this move because they knew that their future was not there. The Giants had hoped that Russell Wilson could potentially play himself into some sort of multi-year contract that maybe would allow him to be a backup eventually, that he would continue to start for 10 or so weeks, right? And then they had to play Jackson Dart. The Browns knew that Joe Flacco was not going to start every single game this year, and they knew they were having to get Dillon Gabriel in there, but they still were not sure that Dillon Gabriel is going to be the Week 1 starter in 2026. The Giants, they know that Jackson Dart's their guy next year.
So as you alluded to, maybe 5, 6 weeks down the road, potentially seeing Shedeur Sanders, do you think that's the end of the road for Joe Flacco, and now it becomes trying to even more so groom Shedeur Sanders potentially in practice to be QB2 and then potentially QB1 if it comes to either poor play from Dillon Gabriel or injury?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely it. I mean, it's very possible that we've seen the last start of Joe Flacco's career, right? I mean, he tried to recapture the magic from the end of the 2023 season and was unable to do so in Indianapolis, clearly unable to do so in Cleveland. We see right here the schedule for the Browns. Remember, the best friend that a rookie quarterback can have is a shorthanded wide receiver. The second best friend a rookie quarterback can have is an elite defense, and the Browns certainly nudging up against being an elite defense so long as their offense does not put them in disadvantageous situations. The Vikings, and again, Brian Flores, that's going to be a tough test. The Steelers, that defense appears to be rounding into form. Dolphins, who knows what their defense, what their team is going to look like 3 weeks from now. And so it'd be impossible for me to guess when we would see Shedeur Sanders, become QB2, right? Because he's going to have to win some reps in practice in order to prove that he can overtake Joe Flacco. And then, is it Dillon Gabriel's poor play? Does he play really well? Is there an unfortunate injury? Does that injury take place before Shedeur Sanders became QB2 or after he became QB2? And I know a lot of folks are looking over in the other AFC North team, Baltimore, a team that Shedeur Sanders said, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. Don't draft me. If you want to draft me, I don't want to sit behind Lamar Jackson. And now the Ravens, of course, looking like they're going to be without Lamar Jackson. Maybe, just maybe, don't try to engineer your way around a draft. You never know what's going to happen. So Shedeur Sanders, even though there's a quarterback change in Cleveland today, he remains exactly where he was yesterday as QB3.
You brought up Lamar Jackson. That's exactly where I was going next. What can you tell us about his injury to that hamstring and his potential availability for Sunday?
It is certainly in doubt for Sunday against the Houston Texans. Lamar Jackson suffering that hamstring pull against the Kansas City Chiefs in the third quarter. Harbaugh making no bones about it. Lamar Jackson could not have re-entered that game no matter what the score was. And obviously the Chiefs were well in the lead at that point when he exited. And so the Texans are preparing like it's going to be Cooper Rush this upcoming week. We see right there that right hamstring that he was having tended to there at the end of the game. Don't believe he spoke to reporters afterward. But when you consider the hamstring, when you see that it was severe enough that he couldn't re-enter the game, the concern for me personally was that there is no obvious thing on film where it's like, oh, that's where he pulled it, right? He just kind of got up, he walked, he didn't limp, and then all of a sudden he's out of the game. That almost signals to me this is something he's been dealing with and that it sort of accumulated over time. But Lamar Jackson, I don't think I have to tell anyone how important his legs are to his entire game. Obviously a fantastic passer, but the element that his legs bring to his game to make that hamstring any worse, even if he could go on Sunday, the threat of that to potentially knock him out for more time is a huge concern for the Baltimore Ravens. So Cooper Rush is probably later today going to be taking all of QB1 reps. Won't be surprised if he takes all QB1 reps all week long, and ultimately he's a starter against the Houston Texans. They have the Rams the week after that, and then a bye for the Baltimore Ravens. And so if this is a concern, if this is near 2 games, and you can ultimately get 3.5 weeks or so of rest for Lamar Jackson, maybe that's the path that the Ravens choose.
A Ravens team that is 1-3 and certainly in need of a win big time. From one injured QB to another, Brock Purdy with that toe, maybe re-injuring it after we saw him miss weeks 2 and 3. Is it Mac Jones time again?
I do believe it ultimately is going to be Mac Jones time for the San Francisco 49ers, a very beat-up 49ers team. Brock Purdy returned after missing 2 weeks. Mac Jones, of course, getting 2 victories for the Niners, and then re-injured, re-aggravated that turf toe. That was good to go for the game, but ultimately re-aggravating it. It's a short week, Zach, and if this game were to be played on Sunday, maybe Brock Purdy would be able to go. Fact is, the game's not being played on Sunday. It will be played tomorrow night. And so it does seem that it will be Mac Jones for a depleted San Francisco 49ers team. I'm not entirely sure who he's going to be throwing the ball to. Jawan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall. I have doubts that they're going to be available. George Kittle remains on IR, so it's going to be time for Jake Tunges to step up. Obviously, they're going to be getting the ball to Christian McCaffrey. No question about that. Kendrick Bourne probably, definitely, desperately needs to step up for a Niners team in this divisional matchup against the LA Rams.
Injuries and QBs taking all the headlines here on a Wednesday morning. Jonathan Jones, we appreciate it as always, talking all things NFL. And you can catch JJ as well on Monday mornings here on the Morning Buzz. And you also can see him there Sunday afternoons and evenings with Joe Musso, B-Mac. I think they call themselves the Ball Knowers. Game Day Reset HQ, your spot on Sundays.